Hi guys, this is just a prelude to my video on ankle surgery. Now it actually turned out longer than I expected it to. It's going to work out to about an hour. So what I've done is I've split it into two parts, part 1 and part 2. And part 1 is going to cover the period up to when I go to hospital. So it's got a lot of really cool information in there. It's all relating to after surgery, being in plaster, issues you're going to have around the house, equipment that you'll need and so forth. Quite a lot of valuable information in that. Then part 2 is going to be life after the plaster comes off. So it's after I go to the hospital and have the plaster removed. I look at my x-rays, I talk about coming home, I talk about the 2-month recovery period, because for me, I've had 2 months in a plaster after my surgery, and then when I come home I've got 2 months of recovery, something I wasn't really expecting, so that's worth having a look at. I also talk about going to the physio afterwards. I talk about a moon boot, which I have to have for 2 months after that initial 2-month period. And I've also got a test for you, a 2-day test, and I think that's really valuable if you haven't had your surgery yet, if you're leading up to it. It's something that you want to watch. And then at the end of that, there's a summing up. So have a look at this video, guys, and then if you're still interested, have a look at my second video, which is life after the cast comes off. Talk to you soon. Hi guys, my name's Wayne and I live in Auckland, New Zealand, and I'm just going through ankle fusion, through an ankle fusion operation at the moment on my left ankle. So what I want to do is just walk you through this. This is my story. I need to point out I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you any advice on this at all. I'm really an ordinary guy who's giving you a bit of information on my journey through this, because I haven't been through it before. There's a lot that I wasn't prepared for, and I guess the part I wasn't prepared for was that part in between having the operation and then being able to walk. So there's plenty of information out there on YouTube or whatever on the period before, so that you can see what they do to your ankle, and they're either going to put screws in it or they're going to put a plate in it or whatever. So there's plenty of information on that side of it leading up to hospital. And then there's also plenty of information out there on once you have your plaster taken off and you start walking, and people show you videos of how they walk after 1 week and how they walk after 2 weeks. So that's all cool, but there's not really very much of the of that period in between, that 2-month period. And it's something that I'm just going through at the moment. I've had my operation, I've been in my plaster for almost 2 months, and it's a pretty shitty period actually. It's a period that you need to have a bit of information on. So that's the whole idea of this little video. It's my story, my journey, my personal observation of life, or that period going through ankle surgery from the very beginning to the period where I start walking. So I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points, and we're going to talk about each of these things. So I'm going to talk to you about the process of going through ankle fusion, the very beginning part of it. Then I'm going to talk to you about hospitalization and what happens there. That's pretty straightforward actually. You're in a safe place and nothing's going to go wrong. I'm going to talk to you about the coming home period, and I think it never dawned on me how difficult things were going to be. So we're going to talk about coming home, and that's going to include a whole lot of things like you know, being safe and food and washing and mobility and moods and shopping and all that sort of thing. Then I'm going to talk to you about going out, and that's going to be going out with a plaster cast, because we're still in that cast period at the moment. I'm going to talk to you about safety, because that's a really important thing. When you have surgery like this, you have to be really safe, because you've got a broken leg, and if you fall over, or a leg in plaster, and if you fall over and break something else, you're totally screwed. So we're going to talk about safety. And then the final thing that I'm going to talk about is life after the plaster cast. Now, I don't know what life after the plaster cast is like, because I haven't reached that stage yet. I go next week to have my cast taken off. So we're going to go through these bits one by one. So first of all, we're going to talk about the process leading up to the operation. So the process leading up to the operation for me was in New Zealand, particularly after COVID, if you have a medical issue, if it's something life-threatening, things happen fairly quickly for you. But if you have something like arthritis and you have to have ankle fusion, something that's not so life-threatening, you go on a waiting list. And my wait was a year and a half. So it wasn't painful. It was a little bit awkward waiting that long for it. But the issue that I've got, of course, is that I've got two ankles that have to be attended to. So the first one's been done, and we're going to go through that journey. The second one can't happen until the first one heals, and that's going to be probably about 9 months or to 11 months from now. So if you have medical insurance in New Zealand, of course, you get in straight away. But back in the day when, things were rocking along and everywhere in the world, people didn't worry too much about medical insurance because you got in fairly quickly. So these days medical insurance is fairly important. So like I say, I've had a year and a half waiting. I went in and talked to them about it, and they explained the process that I would go through. Now, some people have a plate that goes down the front of their ankle. With me, and I actually haven't seen it yet, and I'm hoping that I'm going to see a x-ray of it when I go in, but I've had screws. So I've had 2 screws go on one side and 2 screws go on the other side, and then they took a piece out of my knee, and that was the part that was used to fuse the 2 bones together. So that's why I'm in plaster for 6 weeks. So I'm assuming 4 screws and in my left leg. Now, the advantage of my left leg being in plaster is that I can drive if I want to. So if they say to you, hey, which leg do you want done first, as in my case, I had my left leg done because I can drive. Interestingly, I can drive. Now, again, I'm being really careful here. I'm in New Zealand, and that's the way the law is here. It could be a little bit different to where you are. And again, all I'm doing is giving you my journey through the whole process. So I've had my left leg done. You can, of course, drive, but the issue that you're going to have is that when you get to the other end, you're a bit screwed. You've got one leg. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But life with plaster and crutches is difficult, but we're going to be really positive about all this. So in New Zealand, it's summer at the moment. I had my operation done in November 2023. It's currently midsummer. It's January 2024, and in 1 week's time, I go and have my plaster taken off, and then I'll know what life after the plaster is going to be like. So now we're going to talk about coming home, and this is, for me, this is the interesting part of the whole thing, and this is probably the part that, as I said before, no one covers, and it's the most important part of the whole process. I probably didn't realise how handicapped, that's not really the word, or how immobile I was until we arrived at the front door. I got picked up from the hospital. I actually got wheelchaired down to the car because it was quite a long distance, so I didn't use my crutches then. I arrived at the front door of our house. So our house is flat on the ground and the whole area is flat. And I walked towards the front door, and then I looked down and there was a step there, and I thought, holy crap, how am I going to get up this step? So this is where, in this section, we're going to go over a lot of things that people don't think about beforehand, but that was my first thought was steps, and our house has actually got a lot of steps in it. We've got not only that little 6-inch high step to get in the front door, but it's a 2-story house, and the bottom level of it is split level, and we've got you walk in the front area, and that's all one level, and then you drop 2 steps down into the kitchen, lounge and dining area. So it makes the house interesting, but of course it poses a problem if you're on crutches. So not only that, but going upstairs, which is where the bedrooms and bathrooms are, I had about 15 or 16 stairs to get up. And when you're on crutches, stairs are the most dangerous thing in the world. In hospital they did show me how to go up and down stairs, but for me it's all about safety, and the last thing I wanted was to fall over on some stairs and go tumbling down. So I never used my crutches up and down stairs. I went up and down on my bum, and it's not a very elegant way of getting up and down stairs, but it's a very safe way of doing it. So what I had was I had a way of getting around down at the bottom, which was one of those hideous Zimmer frames, which I'm going to show you shortly. And then at the top of the stairs, I have my crutches, and I would go up and down on my bum, and when I got to the top of the stairs, I'd switch over to my crutches and move around on those. So when I first came home, that was when I realised how difficult life was going to be getting around. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can get around in your house, or once you've had ankle surgery, and the first one is crutches. And of course you do know about crutches, you've obviously seen them before. If you haven't used crutches before, or whatever, and you're going to have ankle surgery, I suggest that you go and get a pair. You must know someone who's got them, because hospitals don't seem to ever ask for them back. But I'd suggest that you get a pair and try walking around with one foot not touching the ground, and see how difficult crutches are. I mean, I think people, and probably I didn't even think about it either, that your whole body weight is going to be resting on your wrists and on those crutches, because only one foot can touch the ground, and you're basically swinging your foot along and stepping in front and then stepping forward with your crutches, and you're swinging your way through life. So if you have two ankles that are in need of surgery, you need to think about the fact that you're putting a lot of stress on that other foot. So my foot, the foot that I'm using, is becoming a little bit sore because it also needs surgery. One thing I did notice was that my wrists were getting really sore from crutches as well, because your whole body weight's on it. Now, I'm not heavy. I'm 77 kilos. I'm not sure what that is in... Alexa, what's 77 kilos in stone?
77 kilograms is about 12 stone, 2 pounds.
Alexa, thank you.
Delighted to assist. Happy Friday.
12 stone 2. So I'm 12 stone 2. So if you are quite heavy and you're leading towards your operation, you might want to think about losing a bit of weight. Now, when I had to take my car to be serviced when I first got crutches, I'm going to talk about going out a bit later on, but I sort of dreaded it in a way, but I had help. So getting in the car was no problem from here, because the car sits in the garage, and it's an internal garage. Getting to where my car was going was no issue, but then of course when you get to the other end and you get out, and I didn't have to walk far, but all of a sudden, you're using crutches. And a guy came up to me and he said, you're going to find your hands are really going to hurt with those crutches. So what I do is, this is him telling me, what I do is wrap a towel around the handles of it so that it's a little bit more gentle on my hand, because I noticed I was getting sore wrists and I was also getting blisters on my palm from it. And I thought about that, and then when I came home I thought, I don't really want to wrap something around there, that looks a bit tacky. But what I did do was get a pair of, I'm not sure what you call them, but they're like gym mitts, and I'm going to show you a picture of them while I'm talking to you on this, and they're what you use when you're lifting weights at the gym. So it was a double protection for me, because it fitted over my hand and your fingers are free, so you can still do things. But what it did was it looked after the palm of my hand, but it also acted as a support for my wrist, because they have this Velcro strap that wraps around and supports your wrist. So crutches are difficult. You're going to find that every time you want to do something with crutches, you've actually got to put them down and then do whatever you're going to do and then pick them up again. So life's a bitch with crutches, and there are other ways around it. Okay, now I'm going to just tell you the second option I had was, I don't know what you call them, I call them a Zimmer frame, and I'm going to just shove a picture in while I'm talking to you about this. And I was loaned this because all the hospital gave me was crutches. So beyond that, it's sort of like help yourself. And the Zimmer frame someone brought home, and I looked at it and I thought, there's absolutely no way I'm using that. Old people use it. And I said that to my partner, and he said, well, you are old. So I thought, okay. So I did use it for a while. I actually found it quite good because it was a little bit, I felt safer than I did on crutches. It gave me a little bit more support, but it still hurt my wrists a little bit because, again, you're still putting all your weight on your wrist. They're a bit cumbersome, but I've got a combination in the house, as I mentioned, the 2-story house, so I've got various things downstairs and I've got crutches upstairs. So the Zimmer frame type was okay for me, but it wouldn't be my best option. So then after that, my partner John works at the hospital, a different hospital to where I went, and someone there gave me a little scooter. Now, this scooter is my best friend. And if you live in a house that's fairly flat and fairly open and you can easily get around on a scooter, this to me is the absolute best option. Now, it's not motorized, and again, I'm going to put some pictures in of it. It sits on 4 wheels. You can scoot around the house very safely, and what you do is you kneel on it, so you're spreading your weight. So you kneel with the foot that's in plaster, you kneel on it, and that foot drags behind you, sort of hangs over the back of it, and your other foot pushes you along the ground. So it's distributing the weight a little bit more. It's actually putting more on the foot that you've just had the operation on. But to me, it was the most amazing way of getting around because it just wasn't so painful. There's no pain on your wrists. It's very safe. They don't fall over easily. I'm sure they do fall over if you're a bit stupid, but they don't fall over easily. They've got brakes on them, and the brakes will hold them still if you're going to kneel, or if you're going to stop in the middle of the kitchen. Like our kitchen's a bit of a galley type kitchen, so I can shove it in the middle of the kitchen, put the brakes on, kneel on it, and I can sort of swing around, and I'm also using the handle for support and the benches around me for support. So if I put the scooter in the middle, I can empty the dishwasher, I can make a cup of coffee, I can get the cutlery out, I can get to the fridge really easily and get things out of the fridge. It makes life a lot easier. So if you can get one of these, this is like my new best friend. I don't know how you get hold of them. As I say, I was loaned one from the hospital. I don't know, I'm sure you can buy them. They are quite weighty, and one of the sections I want to cover in here is going out, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but one of these things that they are difficult to get in the car. You've got to have someone else help you, and in fact I can't do it. My partner has to help me. So he shoves it in the boot and I jump in the car, and when we get to the other end it gets wheeled around to me, and it's actually really cool for going out and wandering around. If you've got to go to the shop or you've got to go out somewhere, as long as everything's flat. If you've got stairs, you're a little bit screwed, but if you've got ramps, and most shops and offices, particularly in New Zealand anyway these days, they do think of people that have mobility issues, and they do have ramps. So, as I say, my really best friend. The other thing that I did get, and again, I'm talking about New Zealand, so I don't know how things differ overseas. Someone said to me, have you got a mobility card? And I thought, crippled people have that. I actually am crippled, I mean, seriously. So I went and got one of those. Now, in New Zealand, they're about $35, and they can last for up to a year. And they're the little cards that you hang in the window of your car when you get to a supermarket or whatever, and you want to be right up close to the entry or the exit part. So that's also my other best friend. So my two best friends at the moment, my mobility card and my scooter. I have used it quite a few times, and generally, anywhere that you want to go, like a supermarket or a doctor or a chemist or a cafe, if you want to go to a cafe, a lot of them do have mobility parking very close by. Now, one of the things that I also didn't think too much of was that in that 2-month period where you are not very mobile, you sort of have to have a hobby or something that's going to fill your time in that will help ease the boredom. Now, I don't really have any hobbies. Like someone said to me, you should get some books and read them. Well, I don't read. Someone else said you should do jigsaw puzzles, and I thought, no, that's not me. And another person said, why don't you get one of those model ships or a model plane, and you know, they can have like 1,000 pieces in it and it takes hours and hours to build. So I thought about that as well, but I've actually got a bit of a short fuse, and I thought I could just see me getting partway through building my model of the Cutty Sark or Captain Cook's Endeavour or something like that, and something goes a bit wrong and I get a bit shitty, and next thing I'm throwing it against the wall, and that's the end of that. So I decided not to do that. So I don't really have any hobbies, and I guess that's made it a little bit difficult, because most of my hobbies that I have, or the things that I do, are around the garden and the house. So like I might go out and paint a deck, or I might do the garden, or you know, just things around the house. And of course, once you have a leg in plaster, those things are, believe me, they're impossible to do. So I don't really have a hobby. I do YouTube, and I had stacked, and I'm quite new to it, so don't look at my subscribers and go, oh my God, he hasn't got many subscribers. I haven't. But I had done a bit of filming beforehand on places around Auckland. I had left it a bit late, and probably in my first 10 days I'd finished my videos, and so that was the end of that. And my only other interests really are music, which I'm happy listening to all day, or drinking wine, actually. I don't know if that's a hobby. Quite like drinking wine. Don't drink a lot of it, but I do like my glass of wine. So those are maybe my two hobbies, wine and music. So I wasn't really that prepared for everything, and I think I did at times. I got a bit bored. My partner works and I'm at home, and when you've got to kill 8 hours a day and you're handicapped and you can't move very far and everything becomes an issue, and we need to be really positive here and look at the positive side, but things are an issue, believe me. You know, you want to make a cup of coffee, you've got to put your crutches down. If you've got crutches, something falls on the floor and you've got to pick it up with crutches, and that's really difficult because crutches don't allow you to do very much. Okay, so we're talking about being safe when you're in this 2-month period, and one of the things that you really do need to do is have your phone with you all the time. Now, we go back to crutches. If you've got those, you cannot carry anything with crutches. You know, I mean, one day I tried to get a glass of wine upstairs with crutches. It's impossible. I'm going to talk about that soon too, how you get around the carrying a glass of wine. But you know, one of the things that you do have to have is your phone with you all the time, because if something goes wrong, you need to be able to contact someone. And also, like in my situation, in a 2-story house, if you've put your phone upstairs and someone rings you and you're downstairs, it's like, holy crap, that is an effort to get up 16 or 18 stairs to pick my phone up. So a friend of mine gave me this little pouch, and this is my third best friend actually. So it's a little pouch like this, and what you do is you slip your phone inside it, really, really easy, like this, and then it just goes around your neck. Now, it might sound really basic. You're probably going to go, oh, that's a piece of cake. But do you know the number of times that I have put my phone down, or particularly with crutches, you know, you're in the bathroom and you've got your phone there, and you walk out and you left it behind. Believe me, with crutches, life's really difficult. So having one of these around you, twofold, it's really easy. It lets you keep your phone with you all the time. And it's also a safety thing, because we're talking about safety all the way through this. And it's all about, if anything happens and you have an accident, you've got a phone right next to you and you can call someone. So one thing that you're probably not going to think about is that you, when it comes to washing yourself, how do you do it? And the way I do it is I've got a little chair in the bathroom. It's a little fold-up one that we use. It's sort of like a camping chair. So it folds away really easily, and I have that sitting by the wash basin so that I can wander on there on my crutches. I can sit down on it. I'm right next to the hand basin. I can shave in the morning, and everything's there. Everything's under the counter, so in the cupboard. So I've got my shaving gear there. I can wash myself, and I just use a flannel and put some soap in the water and give myself a rub over. Obviously, when there's no one around, you can take everything off and you can wash yourself all over. So you're basically going to end up washing yourself with a flannel, and you can't get in a shower because you can't get that cast wet. And one thing I never did, I mean, I love having a bath now and again with a glass of wine and some nice music happening in the bath, but that's something I really didn't want to tackle because I saw that as an accident waiting to happen, and baths can be really slippery, and I thought I could just see myself getting in there and not being able to get out, and that's not a great way to die in a bath with a glass of wine. It's not the best way to go out. So I did the hand washing thing. Now, after about, I don't know, probably a week, you start to think, doing a hair, didn't do my hair in the wash basin. So I started to think I really need to get in a shower. So I'm going to show you how I did it. Don't panic. I'm not going to show you my willy or anything like that. You're not going to see anything. But that was probably, it was a really good way of cleaning myself. So it was a bit awkward. I sit on my little chair in the shower. You hope no one's around because it's not a pretty sight when you're doing this. You've got no clothes on, and so sitting on the chair, and then you've got to sort of slightly roll over and get onto your knee because, again, you can't put any weight on your leg. So you're sort of crawling, you're on the hands and knees, crawling type situation. Then you flick over and you're walking on, you've got your two hands behind you and the one foot, and you're sort of doing like a spidery type walk. And what I'd do was I would get myself so that my bum was in the shower. Obviously, beforehand, you've got to make sure you take the shower head off, because it's all about pre-preparing. If you get in the shower and that's sitting up high, you're a bit screwed. It's like, So the way I did it was I'd get into the shower, I'd have my bum in the shower, I'd have one foot out of the shower and slightly bent so that if any water did get onto my leg, it would run back into the shower, and I'd have a towel around my plaster, and the other leg would be in the shower, and basically I was in the shower, and then I could wash my hair, I could soap myself down, and it was relatively easy. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this unless you've got someone there with you. You need to be really careful with it. I mean, I was really, really careful. The good thing about it is you can't slip, you can't fall. The hardest part is getting your bum over that sharp part where the shower door is. But once you're in there, you can't fall, you can't slip. It's really easy. You just use the shower, wipe yourself over. Hopefully you can reach the hot, cold tap and turn on off. And then you just basically crawl out again, sit on the seat, wipe myself down, and that's the shower done. So again, it's something people don't think about, but you're going to have to wash, and it's a 2-month period. So that's the way I got around it. Now, just to clarify that, I think I said that the chair was in the shower. The chair isn't in the shower. What I meant to say was the chair's in the bathroom, and you just slip off the chair. And one thing I will say, though, I used to say to my partner, don't ever come in to the bathroom when I'm having a shower. It's actually, when you think about it, it's not a pretty sight. I mean, you're crawling around with your bum in the air at one point, and then you're sitting in the shower with your legs apart, washing yourself, and I just said, don't walk in on me. Good. Now, the other thing I want to just mention is you do need to make sure that everyone is a little bit respectful of you when it comes to clear spaces around the house. So if you've got dogs, like you might have seen at the very beginning of this, we've got 2 dogs. So you need to make sure that you haven't got dog feeding bowls lying around on the floor when you're using your crutches. You haven't got water bowls lying around. You haven't got dog toys lying around. If you've got kids, you don't want teddy bears lying around on the floor. You really need clean spaces to get around, and it's all about safety. Also, let's just touch on food a little bit, because if you have a partner, you've got to think about the fact that your partner's going to work and then coming home and then has to do all the cooking, and it's nice that they're going to help you out like that, but there's probably something that you can do beforehand just to make life easier. So I froze a lot of stuff beforehand. Now, I mean, people say I'm the freezer queen, I freeze everything that moves. So a lot of people don't realise, like, where's my little list? Because I made a list of the things that you can freeze. Okay, here we go. Look, you can freeze cheese, you can freeze milk. Most cheeses, there are 1 or 2 that don't like being frozen, but even grated cheese and blocks of cheese you can freeze. You can freeze cakes as long as they don't have cream in them. You can pre-prepare dinners and you can freeze them. You can freeze quiche and cut it up. You can cook lasagna, which we did, and then we cut it up and froze it in little like Tupperware containers. You can do baked stuffed potatoes. There are a lot of things that you can pre-prepare and put in the freezer if you want to. Now, you're not going to eat every meal out of the freezer, but you just got to make sure that you forward think and understand if you're about to go through this journey that life's difficult. Now, I don't mean that in a negative way. We've got to be really positive about this, but life becomes a bit difficult when you're on crutches. Okay, now I'm just finishing off this little part. I'm going to talk about moods, because you might get a little bit moody. Like, I'm not usually a moody person, but I think at the very beginning, it's actually a very hard thing to handle when you look outside, and my partner was outside mowing lawns and cutting hedges and doing the garden, doing the things that I normally do, and it's like being strapped in a chair, when they torture people and they tie them to a chair and tie their hands behind their backs and tie their feet to the chair. You sort of feel a bit like that. You feel a little bit inadequate, and you feel a bit like you're not pulling your weight, and like you're not helping around the place. Look, let's be honest, you actually can't. Particularly if you're on crutches, you can't really do anything. You can't hold anything as your hand is in your hands, which I keep saying. So I found that really hard to start with, looking out and seeing John doing all these things and thinking, I'm not really doing them. And I think I did get a bit moody. I got a bit shitty at one point. And this was probably fairly early on in the piece, because I'm thinking at that stage, I've got 2 months of this shit to go through. But John at one point took me aside and he sat me down and he said to me, grow some balls. Okay, you're going to get over this. It's only 2 months. And so you have to sort of just get a grip of it and be positive about it and realise that eventually everything's going to be super fine and you're going to come out the other end. And like, I'm at the other end. I've got like 4 or 5 days to go and I'm so looking forward to it. So I'm going to take you on that little journey with me when I go to the hospital. But moods, don't want to talk about it too much, but your partner needs to be aware that you will get a bit shitty, you'll get a bit down, you'll get a bit snotty, and that's just all part of it, but you're going to come out the other end a better person. So get over that. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was going out in a cast. And going out in a cast is really difficult. I remember at the very beginning being really nervous about my crutches, going out with crutches, And a friend said, let's all meet at a cafe. And so there were 4 of us were going to meet there. And my friend Christine came along, popped me in the car. Prior to going, I was a little bit nervous about the whole thing because I hadn't been out. And this was probably about a month into the whole thing. I hadn't been out anywhere on crutches. And I was really nervous. I don't actually think I want to go. In fact, I said to her, let's wait till the day and let's see how I feel. I may not go. So anyhow, I decided I would go, but and I knew the cafe, I knew it was flat, I knew getting in was all flat, I knew I could park right outside. I didn't drive. I could, we could park right outside the cafe. So when we arrived, I said to Christine, look, can you go in? Can you just make sure it's not too crowded? Can you make sure there's actually a table there? And can you make sure I can get to the table? Because what I didn't want was to walk into the cafe and they go, oh, we've got no tables. Or I walk in and the table's right over in the other corner and some dickhead's got their bag in the way, or, there's a pram in the way or something like that. So anyhow, Christine goes in, checks it all out, and everything was fine. So that was my first outing on crutches. I do have to say, going out on crutches is difficult. I found it difficult. Let's not say it's difficult, let's be positive, but for me it was really difficult. And probably getting my little scooter was like being thrown a lifeline, because that made going out a lot easier. I didn't feel like I was going to fall over. I didn't have to worry about someone being in the way or a little kid running past and knocking my crutches out from underneath me. I felt really safe on the scooter. So if you have access to a scooter, great. But like I think I said earlier on, the only thing you need to be really careful of is that there might be lighter versions of it. I don't know what this one weighs. I was going to get John to weigh it for me. I would say it's a good 10 or more kilos. So when you're on crutches, there's no way that you can do that. And it has to go in the boot. This particular one doesn't really fold down. So it is quite bulky, and you need to do it with someone else. But that's all about going out. Going out for me, if it's with my scooter, I'm really fine. If it's crutches, I'm not really very keen on that. Safety, we've talked about that. About phones. The only thing I didn't mention, with safety in the home, I've talked about toys and clothing on the floor and things that are going to trip you up. If you're going to trip on anything, particularly with crutches, it's probably going to be a mat. So you need to be really careful when you're around mats, because it's very easy to get your crutch caught on a mat and fall over. That hasn't happened to me. The other thing you've got to be really careful of with crutches is a wet floor, because if they can skid quite easily. So the next part's going to be life after a cast, and we're going to hang in there for a few days, guys, because that's happening. Today's Friday and it's happening on Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 or 4 days to go. So let's wait till then, and I'm going to take you along with me to the hospital, and we're going to see what happens when we take the cast off. So cheers, have a good one. So guys, today is a really exciting day, and why don't you? I'm going to the hospital shortly, got to go and get changed, and when I come home I'll be crutchless and I'll be plasterless. So let's go. Are you guys coming? Come on, let's go. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, and you're going to go through surgery, make sure you watch part 2 of this. It is up and running now. That part 2 is going to cover my foot, coming home from hospital. It's going to cover life after the plaster cast, my foot x-ray, coming home, 2 months of recovery, because don't forget I've had 2 months in plaster and then I've got 2 months recovery in a moon boot. So it's quite a long process that I'm going to go through. It's going to talk about going to the physio and what happens there. It's going to talk about a 2-day test that I've got sorted for you, and this is invaluable if you haven't had your surgery yet, which I guess a lot of you haven't, and that's why you're watching this, to find out what you're in for. There's also a summing up. So thanks for watching. As I say, ideally, if you want to make a few comments, go for it and I'll answer them for you. Also, please like and subscribe, okay? So I'd like to get my numbers up on this. So thank you so much. Talk soon. Ciao, ciao.